Boy, you know you make me float. Boy, you really get me high. Ooh, boy, you make me float. That's you.
Hi, friends. We're back, and we're Black and Curious. I'm Kandron.
Hey, y'all. It's David, of course.
All right. So today we're going to talk. I think it should be already up, but we talked before about things that we were unlearning. So in that same spirit, I wanted to talk a little bit about the things that we are relearning in life, because I feel like sometimes life beats things out of you, and you have to go back and pick things up that you left behind. So
For sure.
tell me, what are you relearning?
Honestly, I think that I'm or I have in the last couple of years. I'm not really doing this now, but in the last 3 years, I have reevaluated everything that I thought that I knew, in the sense of like what my parents taught me and or did not teach me, and kind of reevaluating and maybe even redefining what relationships should look like and how they should be in my life versus what they were. I've spoken about this a couple of times, but in regards to my alleged sibling, I had to do some reevaluating there, in the sense of like asking myself the proper questions, like, is this a relationship that I want? Is this a relationship that I enjoy? And is this something that is bringing like meaning to me in some sort of way?
Right.
And that's just like off the dome, like not necessarily the questions that I ask and entirely of myself. But in doing that, what I was relearning, I guess, is that I needed to set a boundary, and that boundary would be to not necessarily be in relationship with someone that you don't want to be in relationship with, and understanding that people are going to disagree with you, parents to be included in that, and not have any understanding as to why the sudden change, and just be okay, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think for me, I'm relearning probably two things that I can think of right off the top of my head. The first of which is play. I think I mentioned this in the previous video. I've always been a hard worker, and I know how to work really well. And to a certain extent, especially like now, in the type of world we live in now, where like entrepreneurship is on a high pedestal and all of those things, it can feel very much like you have to make money at something in order for it to be valuable. And I don't think that's true. Don't get me wrong, I like to make money at things, especially if there's a time commitment. But there are certain things that are just, there are certain things that are just fun, and certain things like that I maybe don't make a ton of money at, but it's still valuable because it's something that I love to do. So for instance, like, thrifting and reselling or whatever, like I don't thrift as much as I used to resell, and I don't resell as much as I used to, but every now and again, if the spirit strikes, I'll go to the thrift store because I enjoy it. And, I'll post the stuff for sale, like, and that's something I enjoy doing, even if it doesn't net me a ton of money. Something else, just little stuff, coloring. I always colored even before it was a very trendy sort of thing to do. I had coloring books. Anybody I went to college with will tell you that I had coloring books in my room. And I
had to think about it. I was like, do I remember
during
that?
finals, when I was like stressed out, I would break out my coloring books like around finals time. And I always did that. And so it was like something I did before it was like a trendy thing, like, oh, coloring is a de-stressor. Like I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew it felt good. And so like I I have broke my coloring books out a couple of times just because I wanted to. And like sometimes just the wanting is enough. Like it doesn't have to be something, you don't have to have a reason for doing everything. Some stuff you just do.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I'm relearning is fearlessness. When I was probably I would say my mid 20s, early to mid 20s, I would just do any old thing. Like I was just out here in the streets and just doing whatever I felt good about. And I think like life, because obviously like after you graduate from school and do all of these things, it gets complicated. You can't just be up and leaving cities and whatever else. Like you can't just live like that anymore. I mean, you can, but it's a little scarier of a prospect to just pick up your things and leave.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm starting to relearn. And then I've talked about this before too, of like about feeling like I failed at a few things, or I wasn't as successful as I would have liked to have been at a few things. And so every time that happens, it can make you feel, or it made me feel kind of like scared a little bit, like, okay, like maybe this doesn't end well for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I had always just thought that things would work out for me. And it's like, okay, maybe that's not true. But I'm like, hey, you still don't get any reward by sitting around moping, even if it doesn't work out. So it's like, all right, you might as well go for it. And that was something that I really had like in me in my early 20s, or early to mid 20s. I just like picked up and left home. Like I picked up my knapsack and moved to Atlanta like everybody else.
Knapsack.
It was a good time. When it was time to go to law school, I packed my bags and left again, and then left again to transfer. And then after that was all said and done, I packed them up again and came down to Miami. And it was like very, you know, it was just like, okay, I'm just done here and I just want to leave. And so I just left.
Mm-hmm. That's a very Virgo trait. Y'all will pick up and move away from home or move away from wherever, like it's nothing.
Yeah. But it was a very, it was very freeing and very, I just felt strong and like powerful when I was in that space. So of just fearlessness. And it was like, all right, well, I'll figure it out when I get there.
Mm-hmm.
I think Miami kicked my ass. I feel like if I didn't move here, I'd probably still be fearless, but this city it will kick your ass. So
and make it sound like it's New York, where they have that whole like, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
no, it's not that. It's that and I've heard this about LA too. I have friends in LA. It's just hard to make friends here. It's really hard to make friends here. I lived in Atlanta for a year and a half, and I still am friends with like nearly everyone that I've met there. Versus here, I have like one or two friends that I've met and I've kept in touch with over time, and I've been here over a decade at this point. So it's just hard. It's a hard.
You have been there a really long time. That's a long time for you.
It is. And I've been trying to get the hell out of here, to be honest. I've been trying to get the hell out for 5 years, but it's not working out. Trying to find a job to get out of here. But yeah, it's just it's fun. It's a good time. Don't get me wrong. But trying to, have good relationships here, like good friendships and stuff here is really hard. I find that people are superficial. It's very like, what can you give me or what can I get out of you? And if the answer is nothing, then we don't have anything to talk about. Like to the point of recently losing a friend in that way, and somebody that I knew for a really long time. But it's just, she just moved on to I guess to bigger and better, whatever. Yeah, seriously, like that. And I find that a lot of people are like that here. And what else? The job market is tough here. this turned into something that I didn't want it to turn into, but like come in close. If you're thinking about moving to Miami, especially if you're Black and you're American, come closer. Yeah, the job market is trash. And a lot of the jobs that, especially in Miami proper, they require Spanish, but it's really just a way of keeping other people out of their jobs.
Wow.
Yeah. So, or like some stuff actually does require some bilingual, but not in the way that they do, not in the way they act like it does. Like you absolutely can't do the job if you don't speak Spanish or Portuguese or whatever. So that's why I work in Fort Lauderdale and not in Miami. What else? It's very segregated, and people are very to their own cultural groups. And when you're a Black American, it gets dicey. And there are only a handful of like really Black Americans that I know that are from Miami and know it well. So yeah, it's tough in a way that I hadn't anticipated. I just thought it was going to be fun, and like I would come down here because when I moved here, it was like the beginning of the art scene here. So I just thought I'd go out and be on the scene and, make some friends, have some clients, have a good time. And that happened to a small extent, but not to the extent that I had hoped.
Wow. Okay, Miami.
Yeah, it's tough. And a lot of people will tell you that. Like a lot of people will tell you that.
I'm just like, I love Miami. It's a good time. But I guess for me, it's a good time in the sense of like, it's like going to a tropical, like.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's a good time. And when I first moved here and I was out all the time and I was living downtown and I wasn't really particularly, I don't say I wasn't concerned about deep friendships. I was, but I was less concerned. I was more so like, I want to be an entertainment attorney and I just need to go out and meet people. So that was my primary goal. But when I started to try to like have a life here, it got really complicated.
Well, doggone. I've never, so as you all may know, if you don't, I'll tell you now, I've never lived anywhere outside of Virginia. I lived in 2 cities. The one my parents moved to when we came from Jersey, and the current one that I live in. Mm-hmm. And for me, I feel like I'm somebody who makes like, new friends easily, or like new acquaintances easily. I wouldn't say necessarily friends, because I don't necessarily ever want to bring people into my home or like into my like inner sanctum, so to speak. But I find that now, like a lot of people, I've seen a couple of different YouTubers kind of post about how making friends as an adult is hard. And I guess I could agree with that to a degree, but maybe, I don't know. Cause like the friends that I've had since probably moving here. So I'm going on almost a decade here myself, being back here the second time. And like those friends now at this stage, like half of them don't even live here anymore. I'm the only one who's still here in the city.
And that's the other thing, like that happened to me too. So actually right before the pandemic, I had like a good core, I wouldn't even call it a group of friends. It was like 3 of us or whatever. And so, but one of those was from Virginia, and now he's back in Virginia. And so I'm like, well, where are we supposed to go now? And then my other friend, she is native to Miami, so she has her own friends and her own family and everything here. So it's like, it's different, and then she had a kid during the pandemic. So it's like, I'm really like
pandemic baby.
Yeah, like, and don't get me wrong, like I have other people who I'm growing friendships with. Like I have 2 coworkers in particular that I like adore, but for the most part, it has been hard to have long-term friendships here for me. And this is, like I said, I literally lived in Atlanta for 3 seconds and literally still friends with all of the people or most of the people that I met in Atlanta. Like those are my best friends now.
But I also think that speaks to like the Southern hospitality in the sense of like, you are a Southern girl, like you're from like the countryside, I guess, so to speak, of Virginia, or your people come from that area, and then you move to, you know, deeper South, and you still carry that air with you. So like it's more connectivity there.
Definitely. And I find it's funny, here, I find that I'm most connected to Jamaicans, and especially like there's certain type of Jamaicans. There are certain Jamaicans that are like, I'm not trying to slander anybody, but like, see the synergies very clearly. Let's just put it that way of like, like, yeah, you're American and I'm Jamaican, but like we kind of grew up the same way. So like one of my friends is very much like our whole entire lives parallel. She's just from Jamaica. And like she just grew up in the country in Jamaica, and I grew up in the country in Virginia. So like there are certain people here that they get the synergies, but then there's other people who just want to stay within their own communities, which is fine. But you know, it makes things a little bit more difficult than I anticipated. So I am going to leave Miami at some point, hopefully here in the very near future.
Gosh, we have a whole moving vlog of speaking into existence. It's gonna be escape to Miami. Yes.
Yeah. And then like, of course, the whole my licensure is a whole other issue because I'm barred in Florida. So
you didn't do that in Georgia.
I mean, not that I'm really out here practicing like that anyways. I'm basically doing contracts. It'll be fine. But yeah, it just complicates things. So
I mean, you know, like I'm sure the test is on the pricey side, but like you could always get barred in the
I'm not taking another bar exam.
Girl.
I am absolutely not taking another bar exam. The bar exam is not like
Okay, so what did you learn?
I would have to be like making a ton of money at something. Like we would have to be making a ton of money on YouTube for me to like be like, okay, I can quit my job and sit down and devote time to take the bar exam. The bar exam is a different beast. I have taken another certification for my career path or whatever, but that it pales in comparison. That wasn't even the bar exam is just a horrid beast.
Okay, so never mind.
God bless people who do. One of my friends has taken, I think, 4 bar exams. I'm like, you got a platinum bar card at this point. Like, you ought to be able to go practice anywhere.
Like Simone from one of our favorite shows, she's barred in 4 different states.
Who?
Simone from the dating show on what the hell is that show called?
Oh, Ready for Love, Ready to Love.
Oh yeah, Ready to Love. I think she's barred in like 4 different states. I think Texas, New Jersey, New York, and she said something else because she also has now like a YouTube channel, like I think it's called Girl, Is That Legal?
I like that. I'm gonna go find it.
It's funny though, like she cracks me up how she be shading people with her little Southern self. But yes.
So yeah. But so all that to say, like after such a hard go of it in Miami, it hasn't all been bad, but like after it didn't turn out exactly how I had expected it to turn out, I very much, you know, I kind of like shrank. So I'm relearning some boldness and some fearlessness, and you know, just going back to that version of myself. And that's part of that is being here, because I don't like really being in front of people and cameras and all that stuff. But you know,
it's funny, so she needs to be here.
I'm not sure that that's true either, but but listen, you know, this is what I'm doing, because I'm like, I have to relearn getting out there and being bold and fearless again. So here I am.
Welcome. I think the other thing that I have kind of like glancing at my notes here, but one of the other things that really helped me is like going through my shadow work or shadow period, as the spiritual community likes to say. Shadow work is basically the relearning and unlearning of things. And for me, a lot of mine has been centered around my relationships. and setting boundaries in a way that stick. We've had the boundary conversation like however long ago, but like setting the boundaries for my relationships, I have kind of mastered at this point. I think it's setting boundaries with myself that I'm working on now. And boundaries as it relates to my shmoneys, like I was talking about before. That might be up, like Kim said earlier. But like just trying to be more diligent about how I treat myself, in terms of like, I think there's like a saying that how you manage your money is how you like care for yourself or something like that. And me acknowledging that I don't have any boundary per se. Like I have, like we mentioned in the previous episode, I have like a flexible kind of setup where I don't really have a budget. But I know like all these things need to get paid, and so they get paid out of this account, and then, you know, like this is what I can kind of splurge with, and so on and so forth. But having lived a different way for the last 2 years, that process has kind of gone out of bounds, and so now I have to like reevaluate, which is what I'm doing now. So, but yeah,
good for you. I do want to just note, if I can go back for 2 seconds, like I know I talk a lot about friendship. I'm an only child, so friendships are kind of my thing. And so if I can't find friendship, then, and I don't have community, then I feel like I don't belong in a place. So it's very important to me to have good friendships wherever I am.
Yeah, I agree.
That's why I harp on it and I talk about it so much here.
I mean, I don't disagree with you. I feel like for me right now, I don't necessarily have my community here, because like you live in Miami, my homegirl lives in Connecticut, another friend lives in LA, another one is in New Orleans, like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just here, so to speak. And if I'm honest, I don't mind that I'm not really out and about frolicking like that, because I'm okay. I think that's part of the ambivert portion of me, where I can be with a bunch of people and then I can be by myself and be just fine.
Yeah. I think for me, it's not even just about being out and about all the time. It's like, also the pandemic like really messed me up, because I was good for traveling to go see my friends so I could still feel connected, and it kind of left me feeling very like isolated, because I didn't have friends nearby, but also couldn't really get out to and be connected to my people. So yeah, that messed me up a little bit, but
for sure,
it's what it is.
Messed up a lot of people.
Yeah, but thankfully, you know, we're able to get out just a little bit. You'll hopefully see some vlogs from me about how I've gotten out a little.
I know. I still have to. I think what I'm going to do is post it as a love letter to my favorite city. Considering, so as you guys know, we mentioned weeks ago that I was going to New Orleans for my birthday, and I went, and I did take a couple of like footage. I did do a little bit of footage while I was there. But in light of everything that has happened in the last couple of weeks to my favorite city, I didn't necessarily want to post that just yet. So I will more so probably post it as like a love letter to my favorite city. But yeah, that's the only outing that I've done.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting ready to go on. Well, I went home, and then I'm getting ready to go on an outing. So I'm excited. But is there anything else that you are relearning that you would like to share?
I would say as of yesterday, I'm learning to have patience with myself.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I was having a really, I would say probably like an emotional day, and just feeling like I didn't have my things together, and I'm at a big age and I still don't know, like what's what, and like things that affect me. One of the things that I've been working on for the last 3 years is like being more, well, not 3 years, the last 2 years, being more financially sound, and kind of like communicating with all my friends about it, because that's not something that I was taught growing up. And so I realized that I have lived and have continued to, in some respects, how I was raised. And so trying to unlearn that and learn new ways of existing with money. And not necessarily letting that, in terms of having patience with myself, not necessarily letting that be my downfall, or not downfall, but maybe like things that like kind of that I will internalize and like tear myself down about, basically.
Yeah, that's good.
Having patience for the fact that, okay, you now are in a stable financial place, but how you manage those funds is something that you are learning, because you never knew this before. It was like survival. Now it's like, okay, well, we good. So like, how do we manage this better? So yeah.
I would say my last thing is, okay. So yeah, the last thing I guess that I'm relearning, and I think we can finish here, is it goes with the first thing that I'm relearning, which is play. And it's just joy. Like, it's fine and it's good to just feel happy and to be joyful about the small things, the big things, whatever. I feel like sometimes we're always striving and we're forgetting to have some peace and joy in the moment. So I am relearning just having like a childlike joy about
essence.
Yeah. About the things that, make me happy.
Yeah. I would agree with you on that. I'll add that to my bucket of things. So until next time, y'all, that wraps up this conversation.
Like, comment, and subscribe, and follow us everywhere at Black and Curious. It's Black, the letter N, Curious on Twitter, and Black and Curious all spelled out everywhere else. Talk later.
Oh, before we run out of here, because we always do this, what things are you relearning? And I think we've already asked you, what things are you unlearning? So let us know, what's your new journey?
Tell us in the comments, and we'll talk again soon.
You know you make me float. Boy, you really get me high. Ooh,